Aloha mai kākou, it's me, Kumu Alexis, here in the Mala'a'u o Ka'u'uku, and right now I'm in the back of the garden at our Rahihana Kipulu. This is our composting center, and today we are working on building a brand new compost pile. In our last lesson, we learned all about the things that go into the compost pile, but we didn't really talk about how to actually build the aerobic compost pile. Before we start building, let's talk about this word that maybe you haven't heard before, aerobic. Aerobic composting is a style of composting in which there is air in the system. As you might remember, air is one of the key ingredients in the compost pile, and air allows exactly the right kind of organisms to live in the compost pile and to decompose all of the greens and browns that we put inside. To build our pile, we need to collect greens and browns to add to the empty compost bin. Usually, we like to cut our ingredients into smaller pieces before adding them, but to start a brand new pile, it's a good idea to add some bulky, large pieces to the bottom to preserve airflow in the bottom of the pile. I'm collecting these branches and sticks and some dead sunflowers in our garden to use at the bottom of the compost bin. Later on, when we start to layer other ingredients on top, this will prevent them from all smashing down together at the bottom of the pile. For greens, I'm looking around the garden for extra plants that I can trim from. In this clip, you can see me taking cuttings from our sun hemp cover crop plants. Usually, we would use kitchen scraps that the dining hall has left over from when they make our school lunches, but unfortunately, I wasn't able to get any today. For browns, I'm collecting dried leaves and dead plants from all around the garden. I'm looking for plants that are dry, crispy, and crunchy. And I'm also shredding up some paper from old grocery bags. Since paper is made from plant material, like tree pulp, it's okay to use it in the compost pile. Now that I have all the ingredients, it's time to actually build the pile. First up, I will add a layer of bulky sticks and branches. This will allow for some nice big air pockets in the bottom of the pile. Next up, I will start adding my greens and browns in layers. I'm adding a nice big layer of greens and spreading it out evenly across the top. Next up, I'm adding a thick layer of browns and making sure that the greens are getting completely covered. Usually you need to put much more browns than greens so that you can have just the right balance of different kinds of nutrients and a balance of the elements nitrogen and carbon. I'm going to keep on adding another round of layers to the bin. This time I'm using the same fresh cuttings and leaves from around the garden, spreading it out nice and evenly on the top. And now for browns, I'll be topping off the pile with a generous layer of decomposed mulch. This mulch is made of ground up wood chips and dry leaves, and since it's partially decomposed, it has lots and lots of fungus, bacteria, and invertebrates in it. This is going to be great for our compost pile. Since this is the last layer I'm adding today, I'll make sure to cover up everything really well with this mulch. We always want to make sure that our last layer that we add for the day is a layer of browns because it will protect the pile from drying out from the heat of the sun. The final step is to water down the entire pile, making sure that all of the pieces get a little bit damp, but not soaking. After watering, I'm done building the compost pile for today, and I just need to take care of it over time by watering regularly and keeping on adding layers to the pile. Eventually, we will fill this compost bin all the way to the top, and at that point, the only things we'll have to do is just water it several times a week and let it decompose for a while. Sometimes we might even mix or turn the pile to add more air pockets in, but aside from that, we'll just let the decomposers break it all down.